welcome back to the Horn Hangouts. Good afternoon from Berlin. Good morning from Boston, where we have Gus Sebring. And good afternoon also from, where are you, Nigel? Nigel Black, where exactly are you right now?
I'm in Ash Vale. I'm in Surrey, in London, near London.
Sorry, so it's tea, no, it's not quite tea time, is it?
No, it's 2 in the afternoon.
At 2 in the afternoon, that's way too early for tea. Stefan, nice to see you again. And you're not spinning this time, you're on a different chair, right?
No, I'm on a rocking chair. I'm
On
not
a
sure.
rocking chair, backwards and forwards. It's great to see you all. Welcome to all on the chat. We've had some amazing questions in. Today is all about auditions. And if you're watching on Facebook, write in, please, and tell us where you're watching from. We love to see that. And if you have any really juicy questions, then hop over to the website and put them in the chat here, because the ones on Facebook go by too quickly. I can't see them. But I've got them all here on my iPad from the website. And Handsome Tim, it's very late. Good evening to Melbourne. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. Australia's doing great today. It's a nice evening in Melbourne, so all is well. But I've got a special request for everyone who's watching the Hangout today. I'd love it if you could share the Hangout on Facebook. So we just posted to a couple of places. But I've got a feeling, I know the contents of what's coming up is going to be really, really great. I'd love everyone to get to listen to it. So please share this on your Facebooks or your Twitters or your Instagrams. I'd appreciate it very much.
A word from our technical advisor. Thank you so much, Tim. Really, we couldn't do this without you. We are so grateful. Right, guys? Yeah. Bringing us all together like this. And now you're off to bed, right? No. You'll stay there and watch what's going on.
I'll stay in the background. I'll stay in the background. Have fun.
Okay, let's get started. Today is about auditions. It's not necessarily about playing in or like how to practice for auditions. We've touched on that a lot. It's about the etiquette of auditions, taking auditions. And we had the idea because a very nice horn player wrote to me from Iceland. Now, you guys, you were supposed to practice saying her name. Have you practiced? I'm going to give it a go. If you're watching, let us know which one of us managed to say it the best. I'm going to give it a go. Dear...
But you have it written. I don't have it written, so
You haven't written down. Well, I think it is Þórunn Petursdóttir. Is that right? She said, no, the P is like a th, the O, R, U, and then when you say the N, it has to be like an N, but blow a little air out of the nose during.
Okay, Þórunn.
Þórunn.
Þórunn. Þórunn.
You have to blow nose out of it.
Þórunn. I'm not allowed to do that.
Petursdóttir. Is that right, Thorn? Anyway, let us know, because we're really grateful. You wrote in and you inspired me to do this, because you came up with some fantastic standard questions, actually, but you put them all together for us to make it easier. And what we thought would be good today was to have 3 different continents represented here. Well, not continents, I guess. 3 different styles. Continents, they're like continents with audition.
After Brexit, that might be different.
It may as well be now.
Here. Because Gus, in America, auditions are completely different than here in Germany. And Nigel, in England, they're also a completely different kettle of fish altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Nigel, can you start? We're going to touch on 2 different types of auditions for music colleges and universities, and professional auditions where you're trying to get a job in an orchestra. Nigel, what is the biggest difference in England when you're doing an audition to get into, say, the Philharmonia Orchestra, your orchestra?
Biggest difference from what, Germany or America?
Just tell us what the process is.
Okay, well, the beginning of it, same. Everybody applies. We tend to not hear everybody. We generally have to filter. You're getting 150 or so, in our case, for a section job, and we're looking at CVs. We're making a call on that to start with, and then we're looking at references, and we're looking at professional experience. Once we shortlist, and we maybe hear people over a couple of days, and we don't have several rounds. I mean, some people do. In my orchestra, we just have one event, and it's the event goes possibly over 2 days if depending on the length, duration of the auditions and number of people, and you do the audition, and it's not like someone wins the job there and then. We maybe in mind to offer, say, 4 trials. That's so 4 people will come in for extended periods and play with the orchestra. It may be more people, it could be less people, but that's how it works. It's not a winner takes all on the day, which it is in generally in America and in Germany particularly.
Right. So, but Nigel, before we carry on, Alan Kartnick says he misses you a lot. Hi, Alan.
Kartik.
And also, Matt,
Hi, Alan.
Matt is watching, Matt Highslip, and he says, Nigel Black, the legendary high C in Bohemian Rhapsody at the end of the London Horn Sound CD. That's really Nigel, and that was his high C, and it was legendary.
Yeah, that was a very that was almost, it was a one take event that we ran out of time. It was in Abbey Road. It was right at the end. We'd moved studios and we'd gone from a church to Abbey Road, and we ran out of time, and Bohemian Rhapsody was the last one. So it's sort of warts and all, but it was good fun.
Yeah, it's an amazing CD. I love that CD. So when someone gets a trial in a London orchestra, this could go on for years. I've known people who've been on trial for like 2 years at a time.
Yeah. Well, you do end up with positions being open for a long time. I mean, Dave Pyatt left the LSO, I'm reckoning 8 years ago. He's now gone to the Royal Opera House, and he's had 8 years in the, or however long it's been in the London Philharmonics, between the LSO and the Opera House, and his job isn't filled yet, as you know. So that's the downside of what can happen. But yeah, generally, there are people, there are committees within the orchestras, people taking a view across a cross section of people from different instruments, and that's sort of how it works. And yeah, it can take a long time, because even if you've got 4 people, if you want to hear extended periods, and then you need to hear them all again, a couple of years is quite common.
Yeah. So once someone gets a trial and then you decide for one person, do they have then a trial after that? Are they or do they get, like the Americans say, tenure?
No, they don't. We don't have tenure anyway. None of the London, the independent orchestras, I mean, none of us are actually employed as such. So, it's a different thing. But what you do have is a probation period. So that's how it goes. And most of the time you've made the right call and you get through it. That applies to your orchestra and any orchestra. But sometimes you realize you haven't, and it doesn't work out. In our orchestra, it's very rare that it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Gus, Boston Symphony Orchestra, Boston Pops. It was so amazing to play with you last summer. That was such an amazing concert. That was so fantastic.
Loved having you. It
was really good fun. John Williams film night, and Gus was on first horn, and it's just so incredible to hear those amazing horn solos right next to you live instead of on a movie screen. So that was really great.
Nobody writes like John.
Nobody, literally nobody for the horn. That was.
And I was going to say for horn, but really for every instrument, it's unbelievable how much he knows about every instrument.
And you remember, I almost cried. I was so moved by playing John Williams film music with the Boston Symphony in Tanglewood with John conducting. It was like a holy moment.
So are we every time. I mean, you think how many people like that are there on the planet?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Tell us a little bit. You are the Boston Symphony Orchestra, but also NEC, the North England Conservatory. I'm sorry I missed the hangout with your students the other day, but I will be there another night, I promise.
I wish it was North England, but it's
New England.
So not North England, sorry.
New England.
Maybe the Cotswolds or something like that. Yeah. So yes, so I'm associate principal in the BSO and principal horn in the Boston Pops for a long time now. I joined the orchestra in 1981, and when I joined the orchestra, there were 2 openings: third and assistant utility, and there were over 100 applicants for that. And at that time, we were required to send a tape. No, at that time, they went to tape right after that. Everything was live. And so everyone that they accepted from resumes was a live audition. Shortly thereafter, they went to tape submissions so that we could pre-screen and cut down on the number of days that we had to spend auditioning. Out of that, I think there were then, typically then you're invited to a preliminary audition. And then if you make it through that round, you go on to the semifinals. If you make it through that round, you go on to finals. And I've sat on many audition committees, and it depends who the music director is at the time, how it ends up going. Seiji was always the last word on everything, and it didn't matter sometimes how the committee voted. Seiji would say, I go home, I sleep on it, I think about it. And he'd come back and he might agree with the committee, or he might totally decide he wants somebody that wasn't the committee's top choice. So,
did he have veto? Could he do that? If you'd spent
Yes.
all day auditioning and said we want this person, and Seiji would
Yes.
say, well, we want this, but he wants that one.
Yeah, that was known to happen, but and then when James Levine was with us for a few years, he never really attended any auditions, and occasionally he came to finals, for some positions, and completely concurred with the committee. Whatever you guys think, he trusted us, I guess, that we knew who we wanted to work with, and so. Yeah, that's kind of how it works here. We have a trial period. If you win the finals, or if it comes down to two people, it can be they each play a couple of weeks with the orchestra, and of course that has to be scheduled for when the music director's here. And with the number of guest conductors we have, that can sometimes go on for a period of time.
Same with us.
And then, and then once there is a quote winner of the audition, they have to play. There's a tenure, a probation period, and they play. I believe it's a portion of the symphony season, which is September through April, and the pop season, which is May and June, and the Tanglewood season, which is July and August. And so once they've done a portion of all of those seasons, or at least they've started the third bit that they need to do, then the committee will get together and decide either to give them tenure, or to extend probation, or to deny tenure.
But I think that what you're describing now is the way it's mainly done in the States, right? That's how you do it. But I think the most important thing for people who are not in the States, or who are expecting to do an audition in the States, is that everything is screened. Until which round?
Oh, behind screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
everything is screened. Yeah,
We screen now. We screen now.
you do.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't at all, ever.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah.
Well-
No, we have a curtain that bisects the stage, and the committee is on one side with tables and papers and all that, and there's a chair and stand on the other side, and an audition proctor from the personnel office, and they show the person in and they sit them down, and the music is all there, or they can use their own music, and as we run through the rounds, preliminaries are all behind the screen, semifinals are behind the screen, and for finals, I believe we have the option to sit behind a screen or not, and then they'll take away half the screen. So those of us who want to sit behind the screen can move back.
So you're sitting next to the person while they play.
Yes, essentially.
Wow.
They're right through the. I mean, well, once we start doing section stuff, anyway.
Yeah.
We know who everyone is, obviously.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All right. That's really interesting. I think this screen thing is also worth mentioning when we get on. Stefan, can you just tell us briefly about our audition system?
I have just one question. Tenure. What is tenure? What does that mean?
Probejahr bestehen. Probejahr bestehen. A tenure.
After trial, you still get a tenure or trial time.
If you get tenure, means you've passed your trial.
If you get tenure, you've already, you have a fixed contract. I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
No, that's okay.
You don't get
Nigel,
tenure,
a word that Stefan doesn't know in English. This is very unusual.
Tenure means that you absolutely never have to practice ever again.
Yeah, right.
Easy.
Well, then I've got tenure right now. I've got Corona tenure.
Yeah.
Stefan, tell us.
No, our process is usually also based on invitations to people that we either know or that we've heard about. So we are not inviting all the people that apply. That would be taking up too much time, because in our orchestra, we don't have a committee. The orchestra has to listen to it. So, and everybody has got one vote, even the principal conductor. So it's a different system. It used to be different when Karen was principal conductor. There was the audition, and then the one who did win the audition had to play for him, like in his room personally, But I think most of the times he then agreed with the orchestra to take that person. He just wanted to meet them, and that they get a little sort of like a bit frightened of him. And then if you have passed your Probespiel, so the audition, you just go into a 2-year contract, and that 2-year contract is your Probejahr, so your test time.
Or trial. In Germany, it's usually 1 year. With our orchestra, it's 2 because it's stressful.
But also we will make a pre-vote after a year and say, okay, this and this, but also, to give them an idea what they should be aware of or change or not. And usually we do a couple of rounds. So we start, like for the horns, we usually start with the Mozart Concerto and then have like 15 or 17 or 18, or sometimes 20 people, sometimes less. And then the so-called final will be sometimes the next day, sometimes it's on the same day, depends on how many people will be there. And we do like Strauss or the wonderful Neuling Bagatelle.
Yes.
Very happy I didn't have
I
that for
love
weeks.
the Neuling Bagatelle. I don't care what you say.
And then after that, we like eliminate people, and then we end up listening to some orchestra excerpts.
Yeah. It's a different system. It's really important, I think, is if your student's preparing for a professional audition, that you know what orchestra you're going, that you research it a little bit, what orchestra you're going to, and what the style and what's expected of you, because it can be quite, worrying if you're expecting a screen and you go out there and there isn't one. That happened to me once. That is a little bit sort of, but let's get to the questions, the etiquette questions. That Thorun, is that better? Thorun, she said the O should be like hope. Thorun, is that better? Thorun. It's written with a P at the beginning. So that's why I was confused.
Like this, but this is not real P.
Yeah.
But it's a TH like thirsty.
Like thirsty. Yeah, thirsty. That's right. Go on, Gus, you try.
Okay, I was going to say, because I've been working outside in the garden a little bit and I've been pulling these nasty prickers out. So I'm thinking thorn. I'm thinking thorn. And I don't know why I have this romantic idea that all Nordic languages go up at the end. I don't know.
Okay, well, let us know. We're going to get to her etiquette questions. I just wanted to say hi to some people that are watching, because I love where you're all watching from. It's really amazing. You guys, you wouldn't believe it. Inal is saying good day from Baku in Azerbaijan.
We practice that too.
Yeah, really. Good morning from Arizona, USA. Martha, Fernando from Spain, Cesar from Portugal, Alexander from New York. Kostas is in Athens in Greece. My mum, of course, in Isha in Surrey. It's really quite incredible. Nigel, I'll send you the chat after this. You can see where everyone's watching from. It's incredible. Right. Really, we love it. Get your questions in. We do have quite a lot of questions already, so I'm going to get to those now. And guys, here we go. Can we start with who wants to take the first one? Apart from the obvious pieces, what is the proper etiquette? What should you wear in a non-screened audition? Something comfortable or something fancy? And I think, Stefan, we touched on that in the masterclass thing the other day, and you had a very good answer for that.
No, I think was the Gus who said something like really nice about that, what the dress code should be.
The dress code should be in a masterclass. Yeah, right.
Not in the masterclass, but like a dress code for audition. Or was it something friendly? No.
Something friendly, user-friendly.
Affable. Yeah.
Affable. That was the word.
That was the word.
Yes, Nigel, what was that? What was that quote?
Something inoffensive. No. Can I just give a quick view on this anyway?
Please.
I would just say avoid denim. That may sound rather old-fashioned, but I would just avoid denim. I think it just covers a lot of things. I mean, just if you just do that one thing and nothing too sort of outlandish, don't draw attention. Don't let the main event be what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Not killed.
Oh, we've had some of those, haven't we, Stefan? We've had some of those. The problem is it's very distracting. If someone's wearing something that's more exciting than they're playing, that's not great. Gus, what would you say if you come back after a few rounds? What would you recommend to wear during a audition?
Yeah, I mean, I think just neutral. I mean, I think if somebody wears a decent pair of trousers or something and a black shirt, you can't go wrong with that, because we wear black shirts in concert, but they're still kind of informal. Yeah. In a way. Yeah. I mean, comfortable.
Yeah. I must say, if I may say something also to the girls, don't wear anything too tight, because that's also not great to play in, and you should feel comfortable. At the risk of sounding really nerdy, I actually practiced in the clothes I planned to wear for the Berlin Phil audition, just to make sure that I knew what I was going to wear, and I didn't wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, I've got nothing to wear. I thought about it beforehand, and I practiced in the clothes. I did wash them before the audition. But I don't know whether that sounds too nerdy, but seem to work.
Also, don't wear noisy heels because that can be heard walking out on stage.
Yeah, noisy heels, and yeah, which brings me to the next question from Torun. I love Icelandic. It's such a fantastic. Is it allowed to play a single note or three before getting started? Stefan?
Okay, we don't have a limit, but there should be a limit because sometimes we have people that come on stage and like play 2 or 3 scales and then try to play the beginning of the concerto and then sort of like go on like this. This actually mostly happens in the academy auditions, not in the real auditions. And then some people take like 5 minutes to close their eyes and concentrate, and everybody goes like, oh, really?
Yeah,
So next.
Yeah,
No, I don't know. We don't have regulation. I'm sure behind the screen you will have a sort of regulation because of otherwise you will sort of like you could build in a code of something. I don't know.
Oh, there are some funny looks thrown around by the committee when someone takes too long, and of course you don't want them to hurry either. But there's a reasonable amount of time to get ready, and and I think it maybe comes down to if you're going between excerpts, maybe a minute is getting long,
It's the ones that empty their water after every single excerpt. Is that necessary? If it's necessary, of course you should do it. But
usually main slide and maybe third, but not like pull out everything and
I would say maybe put yourself in the position of the committee while when you do your audition practice and say, how long would I want to sit there and wait?
That's a good tip, especially in Germany, if you do an audition and your last name is Willis or Zust, because it's always alphabetical order. Nigel, what's it like in your orchestra? Oh, Nigel's frozen. Is he frozen? Or is he just not happy?
No, let me say, it's only our orchestra that has alphabetical order. Usually you draw numbers or whatever. So it's not always like.
Okay.
Oh, Nigel fell asleep in front of the car. No, I think he's frozen.
Handsome Tim, can you fetch Nigel back for us, please? Please, we need him. I hope we didn't bore him. Okay, but yeah, I think it's okay to have a little tootle just to play a couple of notes, but not if it goes on too long. So that's great advice from Gus. Put yourself in the position of the committee, especially.
Yeah. There was also a question earlier about whether it's best to go first or last, and
that was a great.
I always find it really difficult sitting on a committee and trying to judge the first person because you don't have a standard to judge them against. And so I still try to use my sort of absolute standard of what's the ideal rendition of this excerpt in my head. And I still try to judge them and on kind of do a little scale. I've taken to doing a little scale thing. We have these little boxes for the earlier rounds, and I write the candidate's number or letter, and then I actually make a little notation on each excerpt because I find if I don't do that, I tend to go to sleep after a while. After a few hours of auditions, I tend to go to sleep. So I make myself mark something or some indication of how each excerpt was or what impression it had. And then I give them
really important to write that down.
And then I give them kind of a general score along the left side of the box. And it's like 50% is halfway, and like above 50% is maybe I want to hear this person again, and slightly below is I probably don't. So just a way of keeping.
Sorry, just a short question. You start with excerpts in the audition. You don't start with the Mozart Concerto start. It starts directly with excerpts, or like the first round.
The first round is only excerpts, and then as you get into semifinals and finals, usually semifinals is still excerpt most of the time. I'm talking about symphony auditions.
Sure, yeah.
And then in the finals, they'll play with a piano. They play solo with piano, and that's also important for people to realize. Practice your solos with the piano because it's a lot different than just standing there playing it by yourself. It really is. It's very, very distracting. You hear pitch things and all that, so it's important to do that.
If you can, get on stage with that piano before, even if it means you have to come an hour earlier than everybody else. It's always a good idea, especially if you're coming, for example, we've had Americans audition for us and are quite shocked at how sharp our pianos are. There's that pitch difference as well. So that's really important.
Always also, like, I think very important is if you're like playing. Sometimes there's only a couple of small rooms or bigger rooms or whatever. You know, the bestest thing, like, okay, be prepared before you go already with the embouchure, so you don't have to do a long, loud warm up, warm down, cool, whatever before. And look for a quiet corner somewhere, put your headphones on when you have your number and you have to wait for 2 hours, or just go outside for a walk, come back after an hour and a half. Yeah. Things like this. Don't be annoying, don't talk too much. I find out talking like on these Horn Hangouts and then playing a note is the most terrifying thing.
It's very true. It's very true.
Stefan, sorry, Sarah.
No, go ahead.
Stefan, you mentioned did they play solos for Tanglewood? Yes, they play Mozart 2 or 4 exposition to start, and there's so much that we can tell just from that, as you know. It's
absolutely, always.
Absolutely. There's a couple of questions. Margaret says, do we ever record auditions? Never. That's not allowed. And we have all our digital concert hall cameras pointed to the ceiling. That never happens. I'm sure with your orchestra it doesn't either.
There's actually, there was some people fired from orchestras that did record and shared terrible auditions on Facebook, and they really got fired from orchestra by doing that.
Yeah. That's absolutely not okay. So if you're ever on a jury, phones off. Stefan Yatilski is watching. Hey, Stefan. Nice to see you. Gail Williams is also watching. Hey, Gail. God, fantastic. Great lot today. And then Lewis says, can I choose the excerpts myself? No, the excerpts are usually chosen by the panel. I'm sure you send yours out beforehand, Gus. Yes. We send out, we never have any big surprises. We always ask the same things. What about you guys?
Most orchestras have them online. You know, once you get to the site, sometimes they make sure that your resume or CV is adequate, that they're willing to give you access to them. But most orchestras, I think you can go on any website of any orchestra that has an opening and pretty much download the list.
Yeah, and for us, it's like if you download all these lists from the American orchestras, just practice that.
Gail has asked a question, which I think is a really good thing to clear up. Gail says, maybe this has already been asked. It hasn't, Gail. But why don't committees allow comments to be shared with the candidate? I learned so much from these comments. During CSO audition, Norman would be offended if candidates didn't ask what he had heard to learn in each and every audition. We do. The candidates can come to us. We stay afterwards. You know, sometimes it's a lot if you've been through a 3 or 4 hour audition, and then we wait and we really do give the feedback. The hardest is after the academy feedbacks, where there's like 65 horn players waiting to hear. But I think it's really important. I don't know why are the candidates in America. Is that an American thing, Gus?
Well, they can contact our personnel office and they can get, they'll read them our notes. And that's why I also think it's important for me to notate every excerpt, write something about every excerpt.
Okay, absolutely. It's if someone comes up and they say, so can you tell me about how I played? And I'm like, I open my paper and there's just a big X.
Yeah, I was candidate E, and then I look at E and it's like, no, absolutely not. It's like, oh, I don't know what this is. So I need to write something, why, you know? Yeah.
And Gail just said, do you encourage your students to record all auditions? I don't see how. I mean, I don't think that's not something you should be thinking. For me, I don't think that's something you should be thinking of while you're taking an audition. I think you can record yourself before, do lots and lots of trial runs. I'm sure you guys agree, to play in front of as many people as possible. And but on the day of your auditions, I would not take a secret iPhone in there.
Yeah, it would take time to build up the setting. I don't know. I would get even more frightened if I would then say, oh, that was, and then listen to it. I don't know. Would take away something.
Yeah, I think I would just try to trust my memory and my general feeling about how I played and what I did well and what I could have done better. But I think it's really important to record yourself ahead of time, and even video. Like Sarah, you said you got in your audition clothes for your audition practice, and the little audition tips from Ron DeCant that I shared. I don't know if you can share that with.
Yes, and I don't know if Tim's put it up on the website yet, but Gus has sent us a PDF with some audition tips from when it was. They're quite.
It was early ancient. Yes.
But they don't get old. They don't get old.
It was the first time I saw anything in print that was really concise, and it was from Ron DeCant, who was the principal clarinet of the Vancouver Symphony. And I was studying with Chris Luba in Seattle at the time, and went up and had some lessons with Marty Hackelman in Vancouver. And somehow we got these audition tips from Ron DeCant, and so they're hand typed and everything. But he says get into your audition clothes and practice the audition.
Oh.
I maintain that if you set up a video camera, all your music is ready on the stand, you've already selected what you're going to play, you leave the room with the camera on, and you walk in, and you walk across, and you take your position, you play, and you give yourself one shot through, and then turn the camera off and go home.
Yeah.
That's the best way to practice the actual audition, and then keep a running file of how, then you later on critique your performance, and you say, keep a running file on your computer that says, this is what was different than the ideal version in my head. Then you have specificity in your practice. When you go into practice, you practice those things and you fix them. And then the next time you do it, a week or a half a week later or something like that, you fix those things. You'll find other things wrong, but gradually you get closer and closer to that ideal version.
I think also one of the important things, like how you enter the stage. I mean, not for behind the screen, but then we are talking about the final thing, like how you stand, not to move like too much, and people like, oh, you can hear that they like, the action on stage is sometimes a bit too much. I'm not against moving while playing, but sometimes it's more, the musical ideas are more into the moving than into the phrasing. So it's a bit like, So this is great to control and have yourself recorded also in video, not only like audio.
Sorry, I'm a bit distracted right now because I'm trying. If you're watching on Facebook and on the website, you'll see we're missing Nigel Black, and he's just texting me. He's trying to get back in the chat, and he can't seem to be able to. And handsome Tim has probably fallen asleep by now. So, I don't know how we can manage that. But Nigel was here and said some very good things, and maybe he'll be able to join us during. If not, we'll get him on another time because that legendary high C. You're going to call him?
I can have him here then. Now maybe.
There you go. Oh, yeah, that might work. That might work.
That might work. I doubt it.
I think you won't be able to hear them.
It's not. He said it doesn't complete the connection. I think it must be his internet connection. I can't see any other reason. Anyway, we're happy to have Stefan and Gus with us. I know a little bit about British auditions, so I can help with that if anyone has questions. So yeah, we're moving swiftly along. That was really, if not specified, should one assume warm-up rooms will be available? Yes, warm-up rooms really are available. But what Stefan said, they're usually packed full of people practicing their high Cs and Siegfried horn calls, and I avoided them like the plague. I would not. Plague is not a good word in these days. I just couldn't be there. I would rather be in a broom cupboard than in the room where everyone was warming up in. So, like you said, Stefan, put your headphones in, go out if you're not on. I couldn't leave the building. I'd feel a bit weird.
But these buildings are usually immense, and you find somewhere to sit, and then put your headphones on, listen to something, or maybe just relax, read a bit of a book, and then come in
but don't
45 minutes before you have to play again and say.
That's right, but don't warm up too much with your practice mute. That's also not a good idea, right, guys?
No.
There are so many things that you learn at every audition that you take. It's like another notch in the gun, or another one under your belt, and they're like, I don't know, things like don't play too much, don't play too little, don't drink too much coffee. If you get there at 9 a.m. and you draw a straw and your audition's at 1 p.m., don't sit around and socialize and drink coffee with people. You're probably not going to play as well as you could, that sort of thing. So yeah, and definitely stay away from other people who are who can steal your energy. Yeah. I once had somebody say, "Oh, that's an Alex Descant. Oh, may I see it?" And so I handed it to them. They started pushing and pulling slides all over the place, and I was like, "Oh,
What audition did you do on an Alex Descant?
My first job, Rochester Philharmonic. Oh. I used it for, I forget, Brandenburg and Ravel G major or something like that. Wow.
Maybe just one short question, Sarah. How many auditions did you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Not so many. So maybe I'm not qualified to talk that much about them. You're right. I didn't do that many. Not professional ones anyway. I did one for the Munich Philharmonic and I didn't get it. I'd never done an audition in my life like that. I remember I got to the final two with who was the guy? Hubert. And there was Shelley Bidaki, actually, that shows how old I am, was sitting in the front row. Oh, are we getting...
Nigel!
Hey, Nigel.
Nigel's back.
He's still finding the sound back.
Still finding his side. Welcome back, Nigel.
Oh, there he is.
There, Nigel!
I still got the crown on. Not really.
Well done. Did Handsome Tim help you, or did you do it all by yourself?
I did it by myself. I had to get rid of everything. You know, get out of the computer and reconnect the Wi-Fi and everything. I had full signal, so it's weird.
We're so happy that you're back. Stefan just asked me a question about how many auditions did I do, and not many. And but the Staatskapelle audition was the first, that I came after the Munich Philharmonic, and I was just this little girl, and what I learned, I got the job, but I learned something very important. I had to play the entire Mozart 3, just because Sebastian Weigler was there, first horn, and he said, we were all just enjoying it so much, we just let you play. But I hadn't practiced the third movement since I was 12 years old, you know? So I started, and all I could think of was, dun, digga, 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 da. Oh, so always practice entire concertos. Right, Nigel, we've got a little one for you. Right, you ready for this?
Nigel, how many auditions did you do? I'm just asking a question on.
You know the answer.
No?
I did one.
One.
I did one in 1979.
And that was for the Philharmonia Orchestra?
No, La Scala.
La Scala. So you didn't even do an audition for the Philharmonia?
No, in London. I mean, one thing I didn't say, I talked about section jobs with the for applicants and what have you. Generally in London, I mean, if you were already a principal in an orchestra and you wanted to move sideways, you'd just be invited to do a trial. You wouldn't have to audition. I mean, generally speaking, I mean, some people are sort of moving the goalposts, so to speak, but I mean, as a rule, that's it. I mean, I think the LSOs sort of insist that whoever you are, whatever you're doing, you've got to do an audition. But I mean, I'm not sure how steadfast they really are with that. But yeah, I just did one.
Oh, you didn't get it, did you?
Of course I did.
You did? You were in La Scala. How long were you in La Scala for?
Well, I was in La Scala for a pretty short time. I
did not know that.
Yeah, no, I did a.
Sorry.
I didn't know. It was Claudio. He was a bardo. He invited me to audition for first principal. I'd done ECYO as it was then in that summer course, and
European Youth Orchestra for the ones who are from abroad, just like
So I did that. And anyway, I got the job, and that was a big shock for me, because I flew over there and all that stuff, and thought it would be just me, the accompanist, a few people out in the room, as it would be in a UK audition, and I assumed it would be that. And I walked into this place. It was actually the Verdi Conservatorio, and I looked out, and it was just a wall of people. It was like 100 and something people. La Scala's a double orchestra, and so it was huge number, but a huge number of people were there voting and all of that. So that's it.
That's also different between American and also British auditions and German auditions. We all go, as many of us can from the orchestra, go to the audition. It doesn't matter what instrument, we go to all sorts of. We hear everything, every position, as much as we can if we're in the country at the time. And Gus, it's a little different because you don't necessarily have only horn players on the panel for horn auditions, do you?
No. The entire horn section will be on the panel for a horn audition. But we've got string players and, woodwind players as well. And it's really important, I think, for those people who probably aren't as intimately familiar with the excerpts that we have to play, that you are really cognizant of what it says on the page, because they may look at that and say, and so if you have a reason to deviate from that, it better be good, because they can find fault. And honestly, I've sat on committees and I hear people make comments and I go, are they listening to the same player I am? I mean, it's amazing how people hear things differently.
Isn't it? I totally agree, Stefan. Sometimes when we sit there and we hear a horn player and we think, that's fantastic, and then a string player will stand up and say, I just thought that was awful. And you think, right. we all play in the same orchestra, we all play in the same style, but how can we hear that? Why is it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Gus, how many auditions? I'm just keeping on asking.
Well, I was freelancing in Boston and I auditioned for Rochester Philharmonic. I auditioned for the second horn job and didn't get that. And then I auditioned for the first horn job and I got that. And
because second horn's much more difficult.
In that season, there were two openings in the BSO, and I auditioned and got the BSO job. And then there was an audition for associate principal the following year, and that's when I became associate.
Stefan, and you? 10?
No, really?
10?
I'm amazed.
Did you have 10 jobs? Did you get them all?
No, 3. I did win 4 auditions, but I turned down one of the offers. But yeah, I did 10, and I was not very successful at the beginning. So I might have been the one who has the most experience of all of you.
Yeah, good. All right.
Well, silly me, I didn't mention the ones that I didn't get either. I started taking auditions. I started taking them when I was a sophomore in college, because Marty Hackelman said to me when I went up for an audition to escape Chris Luba, who was a 6-day-a-week teacher, wonderful teacher, but very intense. Marty said, take every audition you can possibly get to, and there's always a good reason not to go. And so I took that to heart and began taking auditions in my sophomore year, and miserably failed for Vancouver Symphony. Came in one of the last 4 for another orchestra in Canada, but like I said, every one was another thing. Don't do this, do that, and then there were of course festival auditions, and I auditioned for the San Francisco Symphony and places like that. So yeah.
No, I just remember that I ended up at a final together with Lars Stransky, who was then later principal horn of Vienna Philharmonic for a long time, and we both didn't get the job.
Shame on them. Shame on them. Guys, let's get to some questions. One that we can answer quickly from Alexandra: sit or stand? Now, if you ask Stefan and me, we say, if I may speak for you, Stefan, we prefer standing in auditions. Okay. I think for me, I can't perform as well sitting down, but I know, what is it like in England?
Okay, Nigel? Yeah, I mean, there's no fixed view on this, but my view is I'd like people to stand for the solo piece, and I think I'm happy for people to sit for the excerpts, because you actually never play them standing up in an orchestra. So that's my view.
Same here.
Same here. Yeah, we've never. If someone said they definitely wanted to sit, then they could sit. But
for orchestra excerpts, that would be fine. For the concertos,
no, definitely not for the concertos.
No, not for
not even behind a screen.
Oh well, who knows?
Not even.
You'll never know.
And
I think you play differently standing for a concerto than you do sitting. It just doesn't feel the same to me at all.
Totally. You breathe. Also, the air works much better if you're standing. So
I feel more soloistic.
Yeah. So Saul is watching, I think, from a rainy M, which I hope that means Melbourne, and then I know which Saul it is, and we're sending you lots of love. He's asked a question. Can you discuss how important it is for a candidate to play on the same instrument as the section when they audition? That's very interesting. Nigel, what would you say about that?
We're not stuck in that sense in London. I mean, we have mixed groups. I mean, in my section, we've got Paxman, we've got Alexander. I think that's it mostly. And yeah, that's it. But I mean, we're not at a sort of one horn, one type event. I mean, I know half the world, thanks to Stefan, plays 103s, and there's an expectation that in Germany everybody plays a 103, but we definitely don't have that in the UK.
Gus?
Yeah, so it would be impossible to all play on the same horn as our section, because everyone plays a different horn. But everyone plays a Geyer style instrument of one kind or another. What they don't play in our section are silver horns, 8Ds, and things like that. They have in the past from time to time. I've owned nickel silver Crispies and things like that. But for Tanglewood, it's really interesting because it doesn't matter. And we get great players on Con 8Ds, we get great players on Alexanders, we get great players on every imaginable professional quality horn.
In Germany, it's a little different, Stefan?
It's a little different, but if someone really plays well, I actually don't care. I mean, it's like when Stefan auditioned, our horn section at that time was also not playing on one kind of instrument. Mm-hmm. There was like Norbert on the 103, there was Gerd Seifert playing whatever it was. It was a very small builder from somewhere in Germany. Some Yamaha by Manfred Clear, one of the first ones. And so there was not really a rule. And Stefan, I think, auditioned on a Con 8D before us. So, and even that worked. So I'm not sure if this will work now, because we have a very sort of like quite fixed mindset of how our section should sound, or we want it to sound. But I think if you would play on a different model and would really play well, I think we would just say, okay, we can try, and maybe you have to change after a couple of weeks, or we say, yeah. I think we had Marcus playing on the 1103 when he came, but he was changing to on a 3 while he was sort of like.
So that's the same make of horn. That's still an Alexander. So that is sort
of.
Yeah,
but the ones the Gaia shape, like that is very different.
Yeah. Also, one thing in the audition, if everyone else is playing, it's not just for us horn players, we sort of understand it. You know, if someone comes in on a different horn and play, we can say, oh, that person plays really well, although it's a different horn. The string players and the others who are listening to the audition, they like what they know, you know, and they like the sound that they know. They like the sound of their section.
Or they don't like us.
Or they don't like us. But it is maybe a little disadvantage then to play completely a different sound, because we're only, well, now we're only 5, but we should be 8. We're 8 votes. We have no, you know, we vote with the rest of the orchestra, and the strings are a much bigger section than we are. So if they don't want someone, we don't have much say in the matter. Okay. So
how would they know? How would they know? Most of the time you're at the back of the orchestra. They don't see what you play. They don't know
but
what
they
you
hear
play.
it.
I mean, but just so visually they wouldn't know. But sound-wise, I mean, a lot of people tend to sound pretty much make their sound on whatever they play. I sort of take that view.
That's true. That's true. But sometimes they haven't, and I have experienced that in an audition, that someone's come in with a different horn and it's just sounded totally different. And people have noticed that. Of course, they don't see what horn it is. Often I don't see it.
No, from the distance I can't see it anymore without glasses anyway.
When you're behind,
I couldn't see the screen without wearing these glasses.
When you're behind the screen, you really can't tell. Honestly, no. I've tried to guess, and I go, oh, it's a heavy con 8D sound, and then I find out that the person's playing an Alex.
There you go.
What?
Thomas from Sweden is watching. I can never pronounce his name, Stefan. Kudelian. I can't pronounce it. Sorry, Thomas, but it's lovely you're there. David is watching. Tom Redmond is watching. Hello, Tom.
Lovely. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. Vladivostok in Russia, and the name is in Russian. Krasovsky Vlov. Yes, sorry. And Jennifer Robbins asks, if you have a choice, is it better to audition earlier in the day or later in the day for the panel? There's not usually a choice, is there, guys?
No.
Hi, Jen.
Oh, you know Jen. Of course, that's Jen.
I think there's not a choice. I mean, but then if there's no choice, if there's a choice, then I mean, I would just go for when you feel best.
Yeah. That's
kind of tough. It's kind of tough to be the first person, because the committee is just finding their sea legs at that point, and it's tough to be the last person because they're pretty fatigued by then.
Yeah.
But that being said, we've had auditions where the last person comes in and just blows the doors.
Yeah, it is in the end. Yeah.
Willis.
Willis and just
Seems to be the last one is better.
What I think audition candidates must always remember is that when you come in, we're all hoping you're the one. You know, you come in with an advantage, not with a disadvantage, because we want you to be that person. You know, we really do.
If I remember right, I was first in my audition here with a letter D, and we were only like 7 for that round. So, and we had to play all of Paul's concerto the first round. That was like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we start at 9:30. That's a tough one. So
I did get up at 7, 6:30 even, I think, just to be, a bit more alive than usually at this time of the day.
Yeah.
I mentioned Chris Loba, and he had repertoire class every morning at 8:30, except Friday morning, which was solo class.
That's
Play at 8:30 then.
I keep being invited to Andrew Bain's warm-up class, and it's fine for me here because that's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but they're up at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're doing their warm-up classes on Zoom. It's really impressive.
What do you do? What are you doing for the rest of the day then? The rest of the day gets really long now. It's like when I get up at 7, it's like, and my dog hasn't been walked as much as these times.
Yeah, lucky. So are you, this is quite a funny thing, are you allowed to speak, crack a joke? Don't say a word if it's screened. If you smile if it's not screened, it's nice to smile and say Guten Morgen or Guten Tag, but I wouldn't hold the speech.
There's one more thing I want to talk about is cadenzas. Cadenzas. Oh, yes, you hear funny things. avoid trying to play high Fs over top C.
And please low pedal Fs if they're not going to come out. Yeah.
Don't.
It's
They
really
won't get out. Usually they don't get out, and they're just a joke, man. They're just, say, basically don't play a cadenza that is longer than the first movement where it is in.
No multiphonics.
No multiphonics. No hand stopping either. We had that. I mean, we did, didn't we?
It can be good, but usually the problem is the more difficult you choose it to be, the more difficult it gets.
Okay, what about playing someone else's cadenza?
Someone else's cadenza? Good question. I think that Klaus wrote my cadenza. Klaus Wallendorf. I think that's fine, playing someone else's. Whose cadenza did you play, Nigel, in your one audition?
I didn't. It was Strauss one.
Oh,
but
right.
If you're going to play, I mean, if you were in Mozart's, if you played, a lot of people played a lot of, a pretty close version of Dennis Brain's cadenzas, things like that. I mean, surely that's pretty safe territory, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough. Madeline is watching in Australia, and it's her 19th birthday. Happy birthday, Madeline. Happy birthday. Suzanne is in Denmark. Nancy Thornton in New Hampshire, USA. I love the globality of all this. Globality, is there a word like that? Oh, Jacqueline Rainey is watching. Hi, Sarah and Gus from Kentucky. Hey, Jacqueline. Good morning.
Thanks for joining our class, Jackie, yesterday.
Oh, was she there
Awesome.
yesterday as well?
Yes,
Oh,
it was great.
okay. I should have come. Next time, Gus, okay?
Next time.
I promise. So we've got a few more questions left, and then we're almost done an hour. It's really amazing. Nigel, can you tell me something? This is the last question I've got from Thorun. Is that Thorun? We're getting better. Is it better on video auditions? Video auditions, I think, is quite a good topic now, just to say a few things about that, because that's the new future. Is it with imperfections? If you start a video audition and play it, you miss the first few notes, but then carry on really well, is it better to keep this video and do the one, or should you always start again if you mess up the beginning of a video?
Okay, well, that's a time and stamina issue, isn't it? Really, and how much it can. I mean, the inclination for all of us recording anything is to get it right. I mean, to send something, to upload a file that has errors in it, there's something that doesn't lie well with any human. So it's really how much time have you got? I mean, I think having someone in the room with you, having someone there with you making a recording so someone else is hearing it if you can. I don't think that's breaking any rules. I've done that a few times with students and auditions, so that because things pass you by when you're the only person listening to it. And so I think you should be able to record something as many times as you like, and in truth, no one's ever going to know. It's down to your time. It's down to time and stamina, surely.
But then it has to be in one go, doesn't it? It
has to be in one go, but that's a stamina issue. I mean, it depends on,
Yeah. I mean, if it's like a minor error, like really tiny, okay, fine. If it's a big one, of course, then most of the people will just proceed to the next one, to listen to the next one. It's like, but you're just like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, take the time to make a good recording. Even if you have to play it like 4 times on 3 different days every day, that is not a problem.
Exactly.
So when I at Royal College, do you have a room for that, or do you would you use like?
Nigel is the head of brass at the Royal College of Music, and Stefan is guest professor there, so that's the background information on that. We've got several rooms where you can record, with totally set up for recording. Even more now. We've got 2 new rooms I haven't even seen actually since they were totally ready just before the lockdown. So I have no one's.
Oh, that's so sad, because they had this massive construction going on, and they just opened the canteen and a couple of rooms now right before they had to lock it out.
It's a huge development. It's amazing. Recording, I don't think any orchestra expects someone to necessarily send something of a sort of high professional recording level in terms of the equipment. I mean, we've got plenty in the Royal College. We have plenty of sort of portable recording sets. You don't have to use the rig in the room, and most people just use those sets, whether it's applying for summer schools or auditions for jobs or whatever it might be. But that's how.
That being said, when you listen to auditions and you get a pretty good player with a poor quality recording, and then you get the same player with a much better recording, it makes a better impression. It's all part of your video resume, and your resume starts as soon as you apply and contact the orchestra or the festival, and that's where it's important to be, have everything tidy and have it present your information in the best possible light.
Of course.
And of course, you have to start recording these things early so that you have as many goes through it as you need to get something that's representative of how well you can play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Gus,
it's important to listen to it as well. It's amazing the number of things that we get that you go, did they even listen to this before they shipped it off?
So Gus, what would you say? I mean, all of us have had experience of watching video auditions, and it's going to carry on like this for a long time. But Gus, your Tanglewood auditions, your NEC auditions, Nigel, you've had to see who applies for video? People from the Royal College?
Yeah, video at Far East mostly.
Yeah. And Stefan, for Lübeck, for your professor.
Yeah, they have already decided not to do. I think the people who applied will get notified soon, but they have decided not to risk anybody to travel now in June or May, end of May, beginning of June, because you can't book airline tickets. So it's like, okay. So they're doing like a mix of everybody sends a tape and you look at them. But then you just pick the best ones and you do, with the other brass teachers, you do a Zoom meeting with them, like an interview, and ask them to play some notes that some people send tapes that they play back on.
Oh dear. No, not having that. I had to look, I watch a lot of videos for Pacific Music Festival, and that is really impressive. I must say that often the Americans and the Europeans, they do the best tapes, not necessarily always the best playing, but their videos are really good quality. And then sometimes from South America, or if people just are not able to send good quality video. And I find that quite hard sometimes if you've got a terrible audio, but you can tell that the student is really talented. That's quite hard. Gus, what would you say is the most important thing when setting up a video audition for yourself, audition tape?
Well, I think one thing that I've noticed is that if it's really artificially doctored, we can tell. I mean, musicians' ears are so finely tuned. And we've gotten auditions where I go, that's a pretty good Brahms too. But then I realize, wait a minute, the tone changed after that breath. What's going on? And then I look really carefully and I see that the second valve or something isn't going down absolutely in time. So I know that they've messed with it. Don't mess with it. We want you to do well, and we want an honest representation of what you do. How many times do you need to play through the Brahms too to get it without one cack,
One what?
One cack. Nigel, what do you think? What do you like to see when you open a video and someone comes on the stage or is standing there already?
Okay, I mean, look, it's for start, just the video is sort of so detached anyway. I think we do see it in a different light to being in a room. It's a different environment. It's a different view from the person assessing it. I think we just know, as Gus said, you know when you're hearing a good player, and if the sound's not so great, or the sound, or even if the video's not so great. But nowadays, with technology as it is, you pretty much anything. It's easy to do something that's good. But I think we were all able to make an informed judgment, even if it's compromised in terms of the quality of the sound and the vision. We can hear a good player in there. I mean,
definitely.
Yeah, it's just, it's sometimes, I'm just saying, I'm not judging it with the Pacific Music. I'm just saying it's quite impressive to see the difference, if someone comes from a school that has a very good technology department, you can really tell. I must say, maybe I'm old fashioned, but especially as you said, Nigel, that it's a detached thing anyway, these videos, auditions. I'm happy if someone looks at the camera and says, hello, you feel a little bit, sometimes people say, Sarah Willis, Berlin, and then they play, and it makes me think, okay, all right,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that's
what
a good
I mean?
Engage your audience just with an introduction. Just don't go on though.
Yeah.
Don't say too
No,
much.
no, don't say too much. And don't, that's another thing we talked about way earlier on a videotape. Don't spend hours getting the water out of your horn. Get the water out of your horn before. But if half the tape, and I have had this in our Pacific music festivals, I've had this. Exactly. You have hours of that going on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
I'd also say,
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, oh, gross. That was today's collection.
Nice.
Now I have to dump my water.
Here's one. You make your introduction. Make sure you've tuned before you turn on the camera with the pianist. Make sure you've done all that stuff. You don't want to make your spoken introduction and then go back and start tuning up.
Yeah.
That's a big point.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
But also play in tune, and play in time.
Yeah.
It's really important. Those things we can absolutely tell on any video. If your rhythm is poor and then you're impossible to play with. And if your intonation is not, if you're not in tune with yourself, then it's, those things are very
play in tune and in time. The best advice, I think, of the day. Very good, Gus. That's the most important thing, really. Aloha to Hawaii. Aloha to Hawaii to Marie from all of us. Hi, Marie. We love Hawaii. I've never been there, actually. You been there?
I have.
Oh, you've been there. I'd love to go there. And the Philippine Horn Players Society are watching too. So we're really rather global today. Cristobal Pastrana. The names are quite hard, But so I think there's been so many fantastic tips. I think we've got to finish up today. There's one last question that came in from Fred from Florida. Just each one of you, maybe just quickly, what's the most common mistake you've seen auditioners make to stop them advancing? Stefan, the most common mistake.
From stop them
in an audition.
The audition.
It would make you think, okay, sorry, not into the second round.
A lot of things is intonation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Intonation is a really huge thing. I would actually, intonation and rhythm. Nigel?
Okay, yeah, obviously intonation and rhythm, but context. Just make sure that just when you're up against people who have held the job you're auditioning for before. If you're a student, so it's a first attempt, you've got to play this stuff as though you really know it. You have to play it correctly in context. That's really important. You have to make it sound as though you played it before many times, because you're up against people who have, invariably. They know what it feels like to sit on the stage and play third horn in Brahms' first piano concerto. Yeah. You don't.
You're here. Gus, thank you for wearing your Horn Hangout t-shirt, by the way.
Oh, hey.
Thank you for that. What would you say?
Well, I guess you both stole my fire, I guess. Yeah, so I think people don't do enough listening to the entire piece and just know the piece. As Nigel said, if you don't have that under your skin, the committee can tell that right away. If you're playing it this way because some teacher told you to play it that way, or if you're playing it, correctly or something like that. You have to get into the mood of each piece quickly in an audition. In 20 seconds, you've got to change from Ravel to Strauss, and you've got to totally flip that switch and become that character.
Yeah, I was like, when I was teaching in America, first time for a long time, last summer in Canada and then in Aspen later, I was very, I was astonished by the obsession with orchestra repertoire, like snippets of it, and not like taking the advantage of me being there and just go for, we do some musical work on Mozart scores, whatever. No, it was like, I want to do today the fourth horn part of Freischütz Overture and then the second horn part of the Overture of Fidelio. So, okay, if you're a musical person, then sort of like we can work on everything, but not, I don't want to work on 3 orchestra excerpts for the next hour. That's going to be a bit like, maybe if you can play everything, then just listen to it on different recordings, make your own opinion of it, and technical things are not very different to that what you usually play in concertos.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember that the excerpts are actually pieces of music, so often they turn into etudes for horn alone, don't you think?
Yeah, good point.
You guys, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on the website and on Facebook. It's fantastic seeing you all chatting amongst each other as well. I'm going to go back. I always go back and read both chats and see where you were all watching from. So thanks for that. The Horn Hangouts is actually taking a little break. We're having a little holiday, Handsome Tim and myself, and we'll be back on May the 4th, which is Monday, May the 4th. So Stefan and I will think up some really juicy things for that. Stefan, did you have a think about what you'd like to do about the videos, seeing as we were talking about videos?
Yeah, I was, you were saying that people could like maybe send you some and we like have a live.
A little competition maybe. We thought, because we've been talking about videos today, I'm not quite sure how it would work, maybe on an unlisted YouTube link or send us.
I think we just say now we will start something next week and then decide over the weekend what we are going to do.
Okay, and we'll post it.
We don't have a party on Friday, but maybe next week Friday we can do a cooking, and I would send a cooking list, like a shopping list, and
Stefan, we already have. Stefan, we already have. Thanks to Alex, I think Alex G, who he said he was bored, so he came up with this. Are we ready for it?
Oh, wait a second. Leave it on for saying I have to make a screenshot of that. Yeah. No, perfect. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely wear that apron. Perfect.
We need the apron. I have to get the apron made for you before we start. This is absolutely perfect. So
you're actually grilling a Yamaha. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah.
I haven't had a belly button like that for I don't know how long.
Me too.
Do you like my coconuts?
I like your coconuts. Where are they? Are they on your hands? Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Alex, for this. This is absolutely fantastic. We are so happy to have this. And it means that Stefan Dohr cannot get out of the cooking Horn Hangout. I'm not exactly sure of the day, but we will get back to you on that.
So maybe Friday next week, like or later, a week later. I'll make a list and I prepare something easy and we can all.
It will be a Friday night, and Nigel and Gus, you are invited, of course. And I think we'll just hang out and have a drink while Stefan cooks for us in the kitchen.
No. You will have to cook at the same time.
Oh.
Or maybe everybody suggests one course, and we send up the shopping list before, and then we do one cooks the main thing, one cooks the starter, one cooks the.
I get the cheese.
I can think about very difficult cheese things.
Okay, I was just going to buy it, not cook it.
I have a good recipe with a coulant. Very easy. You can do that.
Okay, well, you have been warned, everybody. We will be back with another Horn Hangout. We have a wonderful Horn Hangout about lungs coming up for you. We have an intermediate Horn Hangout coming up. Annie Bosler and Heidi Wessel will be back because they did such an amazing job the other day about intermediate horn playing and what they would recommend for that. We have a cooking class. Gus and Nigel, if you come up with other stuff, let us have it. Today's Horn Hangout was thanks to the inspiration from...
Thorn.
We're getting there. We're getting it. So thank you for that. And did we do a selfie yet? We didn't do a selfie yet. Selfie. Nigel, this is your first hangout. We always end it with some sort of selfie. Is your
Nigel, you can put the crown. Put the crown on your
My horn's in a room outside. I've got my crown. I put
my
crown.
That's good. Put the crown on. That's great. Okay, ready, Nigel? You like the King of England. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Horn Hangouts. Yes. You guys got that? Will you send them to me? Thank you. That was lovely, Nigel. That's much better than a horn.
There's a big blue bit sticking out. A bit of cover there, but it doesn't matter.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a lovely week. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Don't go outside too much if you don't have to. Things are sort of getting back to normal over here, but everyone's being we have to wear masks and when we go out. And so everybody stay careful. We'll miss you, but we'll be back. So take care. Thanks for joining us, Nigel, Stefan, and Gus. Thanks so much, you guys. You're the best. Bye.